This needs to happen for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be talking about if Matas Buzelis can perhaps be one of the best players to ever come off of the G League Ignite team and what this would mean for the Chicago Bulls. What does this mean for Matas Buzelis? This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so for Matas Buzelis to be known as one of the best that has ever come out of the G League Ignite and to really become an impactful player for the Chicago Bulls, maybe become a franchise player, I think he's got to do three things. One, he's got to be an impact player. Two, he's got to be consistent. And three, I think the situation has got to line up for Matas Buzelis to take that type of step. And so when I look at some of the better players that have come out of the G League Ignite team, and that's Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Scoot Henderson as of late, I think that all those players, starting with their situation, have got a chance to really play. And I think that Jonathan Kuminga's situation actually lines up a little bit more with Matas Buzelis. But let's start with Jalen Green. I think that Jalen Green in his situation is he was able to step right in as a rookie. He played 31 minutes. The team was terrible. He was able to chuck up a lot of shots and really learn on the job, so to speak. He actually had 14 attempts every game his rookie year, and he finished fourth in the Rookie of the Year vote. And so he got a chance to play that situation. And I think that that's kind of helped Jalen Green now become more comfortable going into year two and year three. Next up with Jonathan Kuminga, a situation that I think aligns a little bit more with Matas Buzelis is because, well, he had to play off of the bench, which I think that Matas Buzelis is probably going to have to play off the bench. I think that it would take an injury or a trade for him to be in the starting lineup. But unlike Jonathan Kuminga, that didn't happen. The Golden State Warriors went on to win a title, and obviously there wasn't anybody that got moved ahead of him. So, Jonathan Kuminga had to learn from the bench, and I believe he played about 14, 15 minutes a game there. I think that Matas Buzelis, in his situation coming off the bench, he's going to have a chance to play a lot more because, number one, the Chicago Bulls are not going to be headed to a title anytime soon. Next up, they may not even make the playoffs at that. So with that being said, the Chicago Bulls are going to be able to give Matas Buzelis a lot of minutes off of the bench or even starting if it comes down to it to really learn. And I think that there's a real chance that somebody could be traded that is ahead of Matas Buzelis, whether it's Zach Lavine, whether it's Vooch, or Patrick Williams could end up going down, or he could not necessarily take off, which I think that would lead to Matas Buzelis kind of stepping into that starting lineup. So I think the situation is favorable there. With Scoot Henderson, I think that, that situation for him, it was a young team. They're trying to get another point guard. They had obviously already traded Damian Lillard, so they needed to get another player in there that fit that role. And Scoot Henderson had a prime opportunity to do so. Now, he struggled initially out of the gates when you look at it. He only shot 38% from the field, but he did put up some numbers, and you're looking for him to be a bit more consistent. And I think with his situation, he's got some players around him that are obviously pretty good. Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton. So I think he's still trying to find it, but 14 points a game. He did go ahead and shoot right around 38% from the field, which is something that you don't want to see, but did play in 62 games. And so he got a chance to play a lot of minutes. Portland wasn't playing for anything. And so that's another situation that, it could align for Matas Buzelis. Depending on what the Chicago Bulls are doing and what they're trying to do as far as building their future out, and what are their goals? Like, are they looking to tank? Are they looking to go for the play-in? Who knows what's going to happen? But I think that situation is going to be important for Matas Buzelis if he's going to be known as one of the better players to come out of the G League Ignite and also to become perhaps a franchise player for the Chicago Bulls. Next, impact. All right. And so when we're looking at the impact for these players that I've mentioned, whether it was Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green, or Scoot Henderson, you have to be a little bit more than a scorer. All right. So with Jalen Green and then also too with Scoot Henderson, you see the numbers there, right? But you have to do a little bit more than just score the basketball. I think that you could say that Scoot Henderson absolutely is a better distributor. I think he's going to become an even better distributor in year number 2. I think that he is going to be set to take off. I know he had some injuries, and I think he had some confidence situations going into last year, but I think he's going to get past that. With Jalen Green, you look at his numbers, and the one thing that I see is that he just hasn't become a very good distributor for the most part. Like as far as throwing up assists, like that's something that consistently hasn't been there for him. And then also too, when it comes down to it defensively, I'm not sure that Jalen Green is the best defensive player out there. And so from an impact standpoint, I wonder about that. And with Jonathan Kuminga, I think he's going to have a chance to prove himself to be a little bit more impactful, especially as he's going to get even more playing time now. You can see a lot of those players that they have drafted in this younger a younger version of the Golden State Warriors that are set to step in now a little bit more for this year. You're going to see if he can impact winning and kind of continue to help them keep that window open. And so I think that Matas Buzelis has a chance to really be an impact in all facets of the game. I think that he could impact in scoring. I think he could impact in rebounding. And I think he could impact in distributing the basketball as well, because you saw that in the G League. You also saw that in the Summer League. There were times where he ran the break. There were times where he finished as a slasher. There were times where he was knocking down the 3-ball. And then there was also the fact that he was getting chased down blocks. He was getting rebounds. So Matas Buzelis has a chance to be a real impact player for the Chicago Bulls, especially if he can just get to that max potential, which I think he can. That's going to come down to situation. Next up, consistency. That is really going to be the key for Matas Buzelis, separating himself. Consistency. Can he be consistent? Because Jalen Green, he's kind of gone up and down. When you look at his statistics and you look at his 2-point percentage, you look at his 3-point percentage, it's kind of gone up and down for him. And that was the same thing for Scoot Henderson. Like there were times and like there were weeks, months where it looked good, and then there were other months it did not look good. And I get it, he was a rookie in the league, but that's the one thing that I haven't necessarily seen with some of the G League Ignite players, and that is consistency. And so I think for Matas Buzelis to become a great player and known as one of the greatest that have ever come off of the G League Ignite team, he's going to have to be consistent in those areas. And so with that being said, I know that he could be challenged for this for being the top player out of the G League Ignite, especially with Ron Holland II. When you look at his situation, going to Detroit, he's going to get a ton of playing time. Impact, I think he has a chance to be an impact player for them all around because he's going to get the minutes, much like Jalen Green. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded of a player. And then consistency, you wonder about Ron Holland II. Can he be consistent? I think that Matas has the edge there personally. But I think we'll see. I mean, I think Matas has a chance to really show that. So between those two players, I think that they have a chance. I'm leaning towards Matas Buzelis. Obviously, I'm more biased. And with that being said, I don't think either of these players are going to fall into some of the other players that have come out in the G League Ignite. And I'm talking about the category of like a Dyson Daniels, where it's just a role player that has shown that he can be a pretty good defender, but he's already on his second team. He was drafted 8th overall. I don't see that happening for Matas, even though it could possibly happen. Jaden Hardy, he's shown that he can become a pretty good serviceable backup for the Mavs. Obviously, he has some players in front of him, which are kind of dictating really what he can do as a player as far as growth. And so that goes into that whole situation. That is where it becomes big for Matas Buzelis. I don't think that either of these players are going to be like an Isaiah Todd. That was a tough situation. When you look at it, Isaiah Todd played about 12 games in the NBA, and then I think he's back with the G League Ignite, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, I think that Ron Holland, Matas Buzelis, both of those players have a real chance to, yes, be one of the best, if not the best players to ever come off this team. I'm rooting for Matas Buzelis. I think he has a chance with the situation impact and consistency to really go out there and prove himself. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think it's Matas Buzelis? Do you think it is going to be Ron Holland? Or do you think it is some of the players that I have compared them to? Jonathan Kuminga, whether it's Jalen Green, do you think it's those players that are actually going to be known as the best players to ever have played for the G League Ignite? So I want to thank everybody for liking, sharing, and watching the videos. Let you know that 65.3% of you that watch are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure you continue to slam dunk on that subscribe button for me, as it means a lot as we try to reach 5,000 subscribers before the NBA season starts. And even though we are talking about the NBA G League Ignite, and not the Chicago Bulls making more moves towards the championship, I'm still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.